สวัสดีครับ Today I invite you to journey with me into this integrated world of judicial influence. We will uncover how the Constitutional Court has not only safeguarded Thailand's constitution, but also reshaped its political dynamics, at times blurring the lines between protecting democracy and exerting control over it. We will also explore how this compares with other nations and, most importantly, what steps needs to be taken to ensure that this vital institution serves democracy without overshadowing it. First thing, let's see the actual role of the Constitutional Court around the world. Firstly, it has the ability to review of the constitutionality, to examine whether the laws, the government, or treaties align with the constitutional or not. And secondly, the protection of the fundamental rights, to safeguarding individual and collective rights enriched in the Constitution. Thirdly, interpretation of the constitutional, clarifying ambiguous or contentiously Constitution provision. Thirdly, educating disputes, resolving conflicts between branches of governments or between national or regional governments. And lastly, oversight of election to validate the legality of the electoral process or outcomes. So in most countries, we can see that the constitutional courts act as a constitutional integrity, but do not directly interfere with the tenure of the elected official unless there is a clear constitutional violations. Now, let's see what is the role of the Constitutional Court in Thailand. So established 30 years ago, the court has four main roles. Firstly, to review the constitutionality, to examine whether the laws, government actions, or treaty aligns with the constitution or not. Secondly, to the election disputes, to resolve the disputes concerning the qualifications of the member of parliament or legitimate elections. Thirdly, impeachment trial, to decide cases involving allegations or misconducted by high-ranking official. Thirdly, referendum amendments, provide legal oversight of constitutional amendments and national referenda. So the decision of the constitutional court in Thailand has quite a lasting effect on the governance, party politics, and public trust in judiciary. But after the year of 2017, the court has expanded its power as a guardian of constitutionalism, as it introduced the provision to strengthen judicial oversight and accountability more than it should be. And what, how, and why does it expand its power? Let's explore now. Firstly, constitutional provision granting broad authority, as the Thai constitution gives the constitutional court significant power to rule on matters of constitutional compliance. This includes the authority to disqualify members of parliament who violate the constitutional provision or laws, dissolve politics party deemed unconstitutional, and interpret constitutional principle in cases brought before it. Secondly, judicial activism and interpretation, as the court interprets its mandate broadly, stepping into political disputes under the guise of protecting constitutional order. Thirdly, weak political and constitutional checks. The absence of strong checks and balance enable the court to act with minimal oversights. And in Thailand, the judiciary often steps in where political institutions fail to resolve disputes, giving the courts disproportionate role in shaping the political landscape. And lastly, the frequent political crisis. Thailand, Thailand history of political instability, including coup and protests, has laid a reliance of judicial ruling to mediate conflicts. Over time, this reliance has normalized the court's intervention in political matters. Let's see the case example of the past cases. First, in the case of Thanathorn Juнгaraongkit, during the year 2019, Mr. Thanathorn, leader of the Future Forward Party, he was disqualified as a member of parliament after the Constitutional Court ruled he violated the electoral law by holding shares in a media company, despite the evidence that the company was not operational. Well, critics said that this was disproportionately severe and politically motivated, undermining a party that had gained significant public support. Secondly, Mr. Samak Suntharavet, who was the prime minister in 2008, was removed from the office for hosting a cooking show and talk show while in the office, which the court deemed a violation of constitutional ethics laws. While the critics said that this considered excessive rigid, as seen as overreach into minor ethical issues, and has the impacts on Thailand's political stability, effectively sidelining political actors through legal interpretations, raising concerns about judiciary impartially overreach. Case comparison. Let's compare it with the other nations in the world. Well, firstly, in the United States, we should case, for example, President Bush during the year 2000, when the U.S. Supreme Court controversially intervened in the president election recount, but it did not remove any electoral official directly. Removal of the legislatures was handled through the impeachment by the Congress or state legislatures. Well, the key difference here showed us the check and balance system ensured the judicial decision did not unilaterally oust the electoral officials. And in the United Kingdom, for another example, the court has no power to remove the member of parliament directly. The allegations of misconduct are typically handled by the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner, who oversees the ethic violations, and they can recall the petitions initiated by the constitutions requiring significant public support to remove the member of parliament. And the key difference here from Thailand is the parliamentary sovereignty ensures elected representatives are accountable to electorate the legislative process, not the court itself. And thirdly, Germany. The German Federal Constitutional Court has ruled on constitutional violations, but does not directly remove the member of parliaments or dissolve political parties. But they have the procedures example of the cases of misconducted by criminal activities by member of parliament or addressed through the parliamentary committees or public prosecutors. Well, the key difference here is the judicial oversight focuses on the constitutional matters, while removal process are handled within the democratic framework. And lastly, the India Supreme Court, which has disqualified member of parliament for proven electoral fraud or corruption, but such decision follow exhaustive investigation appeals. For example, of the Indira Gandhi vs the Raj Narain, which is during the year 1975, the court ruled against then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi for election malpractice, leading to her disqualification. However, this ruling did not involve proactive judicial overreach into parliament's sovereignty. Well, Thai Constitutional Court ability to remove MP and dissolve political parties surpassed the powers of comparable judicial parties globally. In another democracy, such decisions typically involve a legislative and public mechanism, ensuring a greater accountability and reducing the risk of perceived judicial overreach. And this parity has led into concerns about the erosions of democratic norms and stability in Thailand. And I propose two main strategies to resolve this political crisis, which is firstly constitutional amendments and secondly the public engagement. Constitutional amendments had the objective to redefine the court's role, jurisdiction, and the powers while introducing mechanism for accountability and transparency, which has four strategies. Firstly, to draft the new amendments, to form a bipartisan of constitutional reform committee comprising of legal experts, academics, and a representative from political parties, and define the court's jurisdiction to focus on the constitutional compliance rather than just political disputes, and specify the procedures for judicial accountability, such as mandatory detailed ruling or oversight mechanism. Secondly, is to uh, have an approval process to secure the parliamentary approval through debates and voting, conduct a public campaigns to explain proposed amendments and their benefits, and use referendum system if required to organize a national or referendum to seek public approval for the amendments. And lastly is to implement by revise the court's operation guidelines and ensure all judges receive training on updated constitutional framework. Secondly, the public engagement is to ensure public buy-in for reforms and build awareness of the court's proper role and limitation. Firstly, public consultation to conduct down a hall meeting, workshop nationwide to gather up the public inputs and on these reformations, and use digital platform to host virtual consultation also, and gain the surveys to reach the broader audience, and educational campaigns to launch the education initiatives explaining the court's revised role, including its limitation and responsibility since the young age, and create accessible materials such as videos, infographic in multiple languages throughout Thailand. And thirdly, media to partner with media outlets to about the information of the reforms and encourage the public discourse. Lastly, to uh, increase the participation from citizens to establish online platform for citizens to provide feedbacks and also track the progress of these judicial reforms. Well, after the reformation, I expect four main outcomes, which is firstly fairness, to reduce the perception of bias, ensuring decision reflects constitutional principles rather than political agendas. Public trust, increased confidence in judiciary as an impartial and democratic institution. Integrity, reinforced checks balances, limiting judicial overreach while maintaining constitutional accountability. And lastly, stability, enhance political stability by minimizing judicial interference in the electoral legislative process. Well, thank you for exploring with me to the role of Thailand's constitutional court in balancing democracy. By addressing challenges through reforms and public engagement, we can enhance fairness, trust, stability. Let's continue to reflect on the importance of the accountability in shaping a just society. Thank you.